his numbers are actually exactly the same as Kyrie's the year Kyrie went to the All-Star game for the first time. And Kyrie was in his third season. He's doing that, and Kyrie's team wasn't good. Now, I'm not saying he deserves to be an All-Star because he doesn't. The point I'm making is if you looked at him as a franchise caliber player, because that's what he's doing. Like, he's getting 26 and 6 pretty efficiently across the board. How many guys are doing that? You know, like to say, well, it's a bad team. Like, that'd be like saying, well, they're losing because of Cole, which is kind of foolish. Like, they start the youngest team in the history of the NBA. It's the youngest team with no depth.
Yeah,
you know, and you look at what that youngest team were doing as a starting unit, the position that they were in, as far as figures for this year's NBA goes. They were playing some brilliant basketball. It's been exactly as you just said there, the depth. It's actually going to bring me on to something I want to ask you about, because it's when we've started rotating some of the players out that the team started to struggle with the bench unit. There's been online grumbling from some Magic fans around RJ and Schumer. I personally think RJ's improved. Schumer had a very disturbed summer through missing the back end of the season last year and then the start of this. How difficult is it, and what impact will it have had for Schumer to come back in sort of 10, 15 games into the season, having missed so much?
It's extremely difficult. I'm glad you bring that up, Paul, because like what people don't understand is not only did he not have training camp, it's a new system with new players. And so everything's changed for him too. So, you know, guys that were in different spots a season ago in a different system are no longer in those situations. So it's going to take him a while. And it's not like he was a guy that's played a lot the last 2 years. He didn't play his rookie year, right? So then last year, similar situation, he had to get work back into the fold in a completely different situation where the expectation was a playoff team. So he had to go through that. Then you bring in, obviously, with the 2 draft picks, those guys are going to be pushed to the front of the line because you've invested a lot of money in them. And you've got to see, and they deserve that they've earned that right. So that makes the challenge difficult for him. But in time, it'll get better. The other thing in RJ's case, RJ's improved a tremendous amount. Like, the other thing that gets lost is they're asking RJ to do things that he doesn't do well. RJ's not a point guard. So, like, the first thing you learn in sports, you don't ask guys to do things they don't do well. You know, you tend to always want to put guys in a position of comfort because now they can figure it out. So for him to basically have to play backup point guard, he doesn't want to do that. You know, so in some respects, it'll help him because he'll learn to value the basketball more, and he'll learn to, like, okay, I don't have to hit the home run every play, because that's what happens. Like, the game is starting to slow down for RJ and Schumer, but it hasn't yet. And like, that's like when you hear players talk about, you know, it's starting to slow down for them, that means that they're processing information faster. And when you process faster, you play more on instinct, you become faster, you become more athletic, you become more confident. The worst thing that can happen for an athlete is to have to think about what they're doing. And so with some of our young guys, they're still having to think. And that's a recipe for disaster. And the only way you get out of that is through habit and opportunity and reps. And so those guys will get better. It's just unfortunate. Like, it really is. Like, nobody's lost the amount of games we've lost to injury. And let's not even talk about J.I. and Markelle. Michael Carter-Williams hadn't played a game. Equan Moore hasn't played a game. Those guys would be invaluable to this team right now. You know, Jalen's out now. He's missed, 6, 7 games. Cole missed 6. You know, that's a lot to overcome when you got a young team where none of these guys had really had a lot of success in the NBA yet. So it's a challenge for them. And I just hope fans understand, like, based on that, you take the top 2 players coming into the season. I think I tweeted this out. Like, most people thought that Kel and Jonathan Isaac were the 2 best players on the roster. And that's a fair assumption. I mean, I don't think anybody could argue that. You go through the NBA and you go take the 2 best players off any roster and see how many wins they have. They're going to struggle because it's a domino effect. It doesn't just affect not having those 2. Now you have to go and figure out ways to get other guys into. Look at Denver. They got the MVP in the league. They took they lost their second and third best player. They're nowhere near.
They're struggling.
Yeah.
Now, that's what their second and third relative. And I would argue we're probably right now. I would say 2 of our 3 best players haven't played a game this year with those 2, because I do think Jonathan, defensively, he'll be a great fit for us. Because we don't have a high motor athlete with a defensive mindset. And that guy will erase a lot of our mistakes, defensively, because he can cover a lot of ground. Now it's going to take him time to get up to speed, but we'll be infinitely better. Having Markelle, who's another guy that can make plays, that can play with pressure, like those will be big. And technically we should have that, by the end of January. That's why I feel like we'll be better. So in a lot of ways, best thing to happen to the Magic is those guys being out. Because we might not have this conversation about Franz. Franz got a legit chance to be Rookie of the Year. Like he's in that conversation. The whole Orlando PR department starts pushing that narrative, because that's a big part of this is narrative. That's all this stuff's about. Like you got to push that, because if it's spoken enough, people start to buy into it.
Yep.
And Franz is having an incredible start to his year. Incredible start. With where he is and what he's been able to do. And remember, again, he's being asked to do things that no one thought he was going to be doing. Yeah. He's a secondary ball handler on our team right now. He's the backup point guard as well. And he's still got to score.